Hi everyone, I hope you're okay. This is the second video, guys. As promised, I'll cover question 2 from the IEP 2024 May-June examination. If you're new to the channel, guys, please do not forget to subscribe, and if you like the content, don't forget to hit that like button and share as much as you can, guys, just to help us grow the channel. Thank you. Question 2, I'm told that in the diagram below f of x has been drawn. Okay, I'm told that on the same set of x's I should sketch the graph of g of x, the graph of log x base 3. Okay, this graph will look like this. It will cut the x-axis at y is equal to 1. Guys, excuse my drawing, I'm not good. It's a graph that will look like this now. It's a graph that will look like this. Okay, I'm supposed to determine the equation of the inverse of g, right? Okay, remember that, guys, I don't care what kind of a graph you have, but whenever they say find the equation of the inverse, you must reflect your graph on the line y is equal to x, which simply means that whenever you see x, you just substitute a y, and you do vice versa for y. Are together? So in this case, I'll have g of x is equal to log x base 3. That means whenever I see y, I must substitute an x, and then whenever I see x, I must substitute a y. But for me to have a function, it must be defined by y is equal to something, right? So all I have to do now is to just solve for this logarithm. I'll simply have 3 to the power x is equal to y. So therefore the inverse of g is just 3 to the power x. Y is equal to 3 to the power x. Okay, I'm told that H is formed if G is moved horizontally 1 unit to the left. Write down the equation of G, or of H rather. For me to have H of x, guys, I just need to remove the graph of G 1 unit to the left. So I just need to say G of x plus 1. This simply means whenever I see x, I must just substitute x plus 1. So therefore h of x will be equal to the log of x plus 1 base 3. And then the second question, I'm asked to write down, or the question says, what is the equation of the asymptote of h? It's simply x is equal to -1. How did I get x is equal to -1? Remember that I just need to take what's inside. I just need to take my index and equate it to 0. Then x is just -1. The first step is not necessary, guys. Even if you didn't write it, it's okay. You'll get your full marks. Show that x can be written in that form, and hence write down the coordinates of the turning point. Basically, they're telling us to complete the square for the equation of f, right? The equation says f of x is equal to x squared. Let me confirm. Is x squared minus 3x minus 3. Excuse me. X squared minus 3x minus 3, right? All I need to do, guys, is to just complete the square here. I have x squared minus 3. I have a -3 as well. By completing the square, guys, please remember I just need to take the value of b, multiply it by a -12, and then square everything. This is what you do whenever you complete the square, right? In our case, the value of b is just -3. So whenever I complete my square, I'll simply say plus negative half multiplied by negative 3 all squared is just positive 3 over 2 all squared. But whatever that I add, I must subtract again. So this will give me 9 over 4. Remember that, guys, negative 3 over 2 squared, it's simply 9 over 4, right? And then I'll simply have x and the square there. I'll just open a bracket and put a square there. No? What is the square root of x squared? Is x. The square root of 3 over 2 all squared is simply 3 over 2. Then I'll take the sign of the middle term. There's minus there. No? And whenever I add or subtract those numbers, I'll simply get negative 12 minus 9. It's simply negative 21 over 4. So therefore the coordinates of the turning point are 3 over 2 and negative 21 over 4. Those are the coordinates of my turning point. Okay, now I'm supposed to write the range and the domain. Remember that, guys, for a quadratic function, the domain will always be x is an element of real numbers, unless the examiner has restricted my graph. If my graph is not being restricted horizontally, the domain, I simply need to say x is an element of real numbers. Are we together? The other way I can write this thing, let me write it in red. I can say x goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Are we together? And then for my range, if my graph is a smiling graph, it simply means that my the range is y is greater or equal to the minimum value. But if my graph is a set graph, y is less or equal to the maximum value. So for my range, I'll simply say y is greater or equal to negative 21 over 4. Or the other way of writing the range, I can say y is an element of negative 21 over 4 up to positive infinity. Yeah, this is how I can write my range, guys. That's my range and my domain. Okay, now I'm supposed to use the graph to give the value of x for which f of x minus g of x is negative 4. F of x minus g of x is negative 4. F of x is a graph of a parabola. Let's rather change this thing, because whenever you subtract two graphs, you are dealing with your vertical distance, and I don't want to have a negative vertical distance, right? So if I divide both sides by a negative, I will simply have g of x minus f of x will give me a positive 4. Are you together? So this thing simply means I want the values of x whereby when I say top graph minus bottom graph, I will have a positive 4. And that and that x value has to be always whereby g is above x. I'm supposed to use the graph, right? Okay. If you can check here, guys, when x is equal to 3, the y value for g is 1 and the y value for f is negative 3, right? So whenever I say 1 minus a negative 3, what do I get? I get a positive 4 that I have there. Are you together? So when x is equal to 3, the vertical distance between the two graphs is 4. So this thing happens only when x is equal to 3. Okay, now I'm supposed to show that show on your graph where you would read of the solutions of f of x being less than g of x. They want me to show the values of x whereby the graph of f is below the graph of g. The graph of f is below the graph of g, right? That situation only happens in this case. Graph of x is below g only in this region. I was told to indicate on the graph. This is how I indicate. Right, together. Yeah, that's how, guys. That's how you would have answered question 2, which is just functions. And I really hope, guys, that the video helped you. Please stay tuned. Video number 3 is coming.